2:17 a.m. Strait of Hormuz, 8 nautical miles southeast of Qeshm Island. An Iranian fast boat just rammed the USS Tempest at 31 knots. The impact tore a 4-foot gash in the patrol ship's port hull above the waterline. 11 seconds later, the shooting started. Welcome to Global Warfare TV. Tonight, we are reconstructing the only deliberate ramming of a U.S. Navy vessel by an Iranian military craft in the history of Persian Gulf operations. An act of physical force that preceded a full firefight created a structural emergency aboard a 336-ton patrol ship and forced a crew of 28 to simultaneously fight their attackers, control a hull breach, and manage a flooding compartment while cut off from immediate reinforcement. We are going through the full timeline of the ramming, the engineering casualty that followed, the gunfight that broke out 11 seconds after impact, and the intelligence finding about the Iranian operational order that revealed something deeply troubling about IRGCN doctrine in the Strait. Let's get into it. The USS Tempest, hull designation PC-2, Cyclone-class coastal patrol ship, 179 feet long, 336 tons displacement, crew of 28, built with an aluminum hull, strong but not armored, and critically, aluminum does not absorb impact force the way steel does. A direct collision from a hard-hulled vessel at high speed against an aluminum hull is not a glancing blow. It is a structural event. The Tempest had been operating in the Strait's western approach for 7 hours when the engagement occurred. Her patrol tasking was maritime security. She was monitoring commercial traffic, transiting westbound through the strait, specifically watching for approaches by unregistered vessels toward a convoy of 3 tankers that had requested escort coordination. The tankers were 4 nautical miles ahead of her. She was the trailing escort asset. At 1:44 a.m., the Tempest's radar picked up 2 contacts departing from a small cove on the Qeshm Island coastline. The contacts moved slowly, approximately 8 knots, eastward along the Qeshm shoreline. This was not immediately alarming. Fishing craft operate along that coastline at night. The watch officer logged them and continued monitoring. At 1:58 a.m., both contacts accelerated, from 8 knots to 36 knots in under 90 seconds. They turned away from the Qeshm coastline and took up a heading directly toward the Tempest. The watch officer called the CO at 1:59 a.m. The CO reached the bridge at 2:01 a.m. Both contacts were now 4.1 nautical miles out, still accelerating. He attempted to raise them on Channel 16. No response. He activated the ship's searchlight. He ordered the Mark 38 manned and the .50 caliber positions crewed. He transmitted a warning. Unknown vessels bearing 287. This is USS Tempest, a United States Navy warship. You are on an intercept course. Identify yourself immediately. Alter course, or we will employ defensive measures. The contacts did not respond. They did not alter course. They were now running at 44 knots. At 2:06 a.m., the CO fired a warning flare, a handheld parachute flare that illuminated both approaching boats in bright white light. Through NVGs, the crew could see the approaching vessels clearly. 2 Peykaap-II fast attack boats, running without lights. 2 crew visible on each boat. Neither boat altered course. At 2:08 a.m., range 1.8 nautical miles, the CO authorized warning shots. The Mark 38 fired twice across the lead boat's bow at 2:08:14 and 2:08:22. Both rounds impacted the water clearly ahead and to the right of the lead boat. The lead boat did not alter course. What the CO could not know at that moment, what the intelligence assessment would determine weeks later from signals intelligence and from the debriefing of the 1 Iranian crew member who survived the engagement, was that the 2 boat crews had been given an explicit operational order. The order, as reconstructed from intercepts and the survivor's account, was close to ramming distance and execute a contact strike against the American patrol ship. Do not stop for warnings. Do not fire first. get alongside, and ram. The order had come from an IRGCN Aerospace Force proxy handler, the same network that had operated the contracted irregular cell in the USS Whirlwind engagement. The boat crews had been briefed that the Cyclone-class ship's aluminum hull would be breached by a high-speed impact. The intent was not to sink the Tempest. The Peykaap-II is not large enough to do that with a single ram. The intent was to create a structural casualty, force the American crew into damage control mode, and demonstrate that IRGCN forces could reach and physically impact a U.S. naval vessel without firing a shot, an act of force below the threshold of a weapons discharge that would nonetheless put American sailors in danger and create a propaganda incident. The operational planning had not adequately accounted for what American sailors do after someone rams their ship. At 2:09:41 a.m., the lead Peykaap-II reached ramming distance. The boat struck the Tempest on the port side, approximately 40 feet aft of the bow, at an angle of approximately 35 degrees. The impact velocity was estimated at 31 knots. The boat had bled some speed during its final approach as it adjusted its angle. At 31 knots, 336 tons of patrol ship absorbs the impact of a 35-ton fast boat differently than the reverse. The Peykaap's bow crumpled, but the Peykaap's bow also transferred significant force into the Tempest's aluminum hull at the contact point. The result, a structural breach approximately 52 inches long and between 6 and 11 inches wide, widest at the center of the impact, tapering toward the ends. The breach was above the waterline. At 2:17 a.m., the sea state was 1 to 2 feet of chop, and the breach was 19 inches above the waterline at rest. But a ship moving at speed in choppy water does not stay at rest. The breach was intermittently below the waterline as the hull moved through the chop. Water was entering the port passageway adjacent to the impact point. 11 seconds after impact, at 2:09:52 a.m., the second Peykaap opened fire. Not the lead boat, the second boat. The lead boat was damaged from the ram. Its bow was crumpled, and it was losing speed rapidly. The second boat had held back during the approach, positioned 400 meters behind the lead boat. When the ram was complete, it accelerated and opened up with its 12.7 millimeter heavy machine gun from a bearing of 270, crossing the Tempest's stern at approximately 550 meters. Rounds impacted the Tempest's stern and port quarter. 2 rounds penetrated the hull above the waterline in the aft section, a storage area, no personnel. 3 rounds impacted the aft gun mount area. The sailor manning the Mark 19 was struck by fragmentation, not a direct hit, but fragments from a round that detonated against the gun mount's edge. He took fragments to his left forearm and hand. He did not leave his position. He activated the Mark 19 and returned fire. This is the moment where the crew of the USS Tempest demonstrated something that cannot be manufactured by doctrine or procedure. In the 11 seconds between the ram and the opening of fire by the second boat, the crew had been dealing with the shock of a physical collision, an event that no amount of training fully prepares the body for. The impact of a 35-ton boat at 31 knots is a physical experience. Sailors were thrown against bulkheads. Loose equipment flew. The damage control alarm activated automatically. The flooding alarm activated 4 seconds after impact as water began entering the port passageway. 11 seconds after that, while sailors were getting back to their feet, while the flooding alarm was sounding, while the damage control team was moving toward the breach, the second Iranian boat started shooting. The crew did not freeze. Every sailor went to his or her designated station. The Mark 19 gunner, fragments in his forearm, opened fire with the grenade launcher. The Port .50 caliber, whose mount had taken minor impact damage during the ram and required 8 seconds to clear a feed jam, opened up at 2:10:04. The CO was calling the engagement, calling damage control status, and calling Fifth Fleet simultaneously. 3 radio channels. one voice. The Mark 19 engaged the second Peykaap, which was crossing the Tempest's stern at 550 meters, with a full burst. At 550 meters, the grenade dispersion pattern covered a 15-meter swath across the water. The Peykaap ran through the dispersion. Its hull took multiple fragmentation hits. The boat's speed dropped from approximately 38 knots to under 20 as engine damage accumulated. The port .50 caliber opened sustained fire at 2:10:04 on the same target. The combined effect of the Mark 19 fragmentation and the .50 caliber rounds on a boat that was already damaged and decelerating was significant. At 2:10:29, the second Peykaap's engine died completely. The boat went dead in the water at approximately 380 meters off the Tempest's port stern quarter. Silence from the second boat's gun at 2:10:31. The first boat, the one that had rammed, was still afloat, but not maneuvering. Its crumpled bow had created drag and one of its engines had stalled on impact. It was drifting southwest at under 4 knots. Its crew, 2 personnel, had not fired a shot. The CO called ceasefire at 2:10:44 a.m. Total time from first ramming impact to cessation of fire, 52 seconds. But the fight was not over. The damage control fight was just beginning. The port passageway breach was intermittently flooding at a rate the damage control team estimated at 15 to 20 gallons per minute during downswells, when the hull dipped below the waterline. On average sea state, this meant approximately 8 to 12 gallons per minute of water ingress. The Cyclone-class ship has a bilge pumping system rated at 50 gallons per minute. In theory, the pumps could handle the ingress. In practice, the breach needed to be physically controlled. The pump capacity did not account for water that spread into adjacent compartments before being pumped. The damage control team needed to get a patch on the breach and control the spread. The team leader, the ship's damage control petty officer, an E5 with 4 years of damage control experience, reached the breach at 2:11:02 a.m. He assessed the breach dimensions, 52 inches long, variable width. Standard soft patch kits, the rubber and banding kits carried in the Cyclone-class damage control inventory, are designed for breaches up to approximately 36 inches in their standard configuration. The 52-inch breach exceeded the standard kit. He improvised. He combined 2 standard kits, overlapping them at the center of the breach, and using a combination of the rubber sheeting and damage control shoring timber from the ship's stores to create a reinforced patch. The process required 3 personnel working in a partially flooded, tight passageway at an awkward angle. The CO was getting updated every 60 seconds. The patch was in place at 2:17:41 a.m., 6 minutes and 41 seconds after the impact. Water ingress dropped from an estimated 10 gallons per minute to under 2 gallons per minute, well within bilge pump capacity. The flooding was controlled. The Tempest was damaged but stable. She could maneuver, she could fight if needed. She was not going to sink. On deck, the situation with the 2 Iranian boats required management. The second Peykaap was dead in the water at approximately 380 meters. The first Peykaap was drifting. Both boats had crew aboard. The Tempest's crew had 1 wounded sailor, the Mark 19 gunner with fragmentation in his forearm and hand, and no other casualties. The CO made a decision that was consistent with the USS Gravely precedent, but also reflected the specific complexity of the situation. He did not launch his RHIB immediately. The 2 Iranian boats were in proximity to each other and to his own ship. He did not yet know whether the crews of either boat were still armed and capable of further attack. He ordered 2 sailors with M4 rifles to the exposed stern position, overwatch on both drifting boats at close range, while he attempted again to reach 5th Fleet. 5th Fleet acknowledged at 2:18:11 a.m. The CO gave a compressed sit rep in under 90 seconds. Ramming, gunfire, damage, 1 WIA, 2 Iranian boats neutralized, flooding controlled, request QRF. Fifth Fleet dispatched 2 MH-60S helicopters from the USS Bataan at 2:19 a.m. ETA to position, 24 minutes. During those 24 minutes, the Tempest held her position. The crew maintained overwatch on both Iranian boats. At 2:23 a.m., one crew member from the first Peykaap, the ramming boat, raised his hands visibly and shouted in Farsi. The Tempest's one Farsi-capable sailor, an intelligence specialist assigned to the patrol, was brought to the stern. The Iranian was indicating he and his partner were unarmed and requesting assistance. The second boat showed no movement. The CO authorized the RHIB launch at 2:24 a.m. with a 4-person armed boat crew. The RHIB recovered 2 crew members from the first boat, neither seriously injured, both compliant. The second boat was approached at 2:26 a.m. One crew member was found dead, killed by .50 caliber fire during the engagement. One crew member was found alive with serious wounds to the torso. He was brought aboard the Tempest, and the ship's corpsman began emergency treatment at 2:29 a.m. The corpsman worked on the Iranian sailor for 19 minutes. The MH-60S helicopter arrived at 2:43 a.m. The seriously wounded Iranian was medevaced to the USS Bataan. He survived. He required surgery. He was eventually returned to Iranian custody through a third-party channel. The Mark 19 gunner with fragmentation wounds was also medevaced to the Bataan. His wounds were more extensive than initially assessed. One fragment had penetrated the forearm to the bone. He was treated and returned to duty within 3 weeks. The Tempest was towed to Jebel Ali under her own partial power. Her propulsion was intact, but the CO chose not to maneuver independently until the patch was inspected by a hull technician in port. She arrived at Jebel Ali 11 hours after the engagement. The intelligence reconstruction of the ramming order produced findings that went to CENTCOM and then to the National Security Council level within 72 hours. The operational directive to ram U.S. naval vessels rather than fire on them had been developed by the IRGCN's Irregular Operations Planning Cell as a response to a specific doctrinal problem. Previous direct fire attacks on U.S. vessels had resulted in rapid, overwhelming U.S. responses under established ROE. The Irregular Cell's analysis: if you fire a gun, the Americans immediately have legal authority and tactical justification to destroy you. But if you ram, if you create a physical impact without firing a weapon, the ROE's graduated response sequence requires the American commander to issue further warnings before escalating to lethal force. The cell's planners believed the ramming would create a 30 to 45-second window in which the Tempest would be dealing with damage control rather than weapons employment, a window in which the second boat could make a close approach, fire from point-blank range, and then withdraw before the American guns fully responded. The analysis was not wrong in its logic. It was wrong in its assessment of American sailors. The 11-second gap between the ramming impact and the opening of fire by the second boat was all the crew of the USS Tempest needed. The Mark 19 was active by second 11. The .50 caliber cleared its jam and fired by second 15. The crew did not require 30 to 45 seconds to transition from damage control to weapons employment. They ran both simultaneously. The IRGCN's Irregular Cell had planned against an average crew response time. The Tempest's crew was not average. The NSC-level finding from the intelligence assessment was sobering. The ramming tactic, if refined and used against a crew caught more completely off guard or against a ship with greater internal damage from the initial impact, could succeed in creating the window the IRGCN planners intended. The Tempest survived because the ram produced a manageable breach rather than a catastrophic one, and because the crew responded faster than the Iranian planning assumed. A harder impact at a more perpendicular angle against a less experienced crew could produce a different outcome. Fifth Fleet issued revised patrol guidance for Cyclone-class ships within 30 days. The new guidance included pre-planned anti-ramming maneuvers, procedures for using the ship's speed and rudder to present a less vulnerable angle to an approaching vessel that could not be stopped by warnings. The procedures had existed informally in some crews' institutional knowledge. They were now formal, written doctrine. The 3 Iranian crew members who had been recovered, 2 from the first boat, 1 critically wounded from the second, were all eventually returned to Iran. Their identities were withheld from public disclosure. The Tempest returned to active service after 47 days of repair in Jebel Ali. The aluminum hull section around the breach was replaced entirely. The port passageway was rebuilt. The Mark 19 mount that had been struck was replaced. The Mark 19 gunner, who had taken fragments and kept firing, was awarded the Navy Achievement Medal with Combat Distinguishing Device. The damage control petty officer, who had improvised the oversized patch in the flooded passageway in the dark, was awarded the same. The ship's Farsi-capable intelligence specialist, whose translation had enabled the surrender of the first boat's crew without additional violence, received a letter of commendation from the 5th Fleet commander. And somewhere in Jebel Ali's repair yard, a hull technician spent 3 days removing and replacing a 52-inch section of aluminum hull plating that had absorbed a 35-ton boat at 31 knots and held. It had done its job, barely, and the crew had done theirs. In the Persian Gulf, barely is often enough. Global Warfare TV covers the engagements where the margins are measured in inches and seconds. Subscribe for the operational depth that doesn't make it into the headlines. Hit the notification bell and tell us in the comments. If you're the CO of the Tempest at 2:08 a.m. and your warning shots are not working, do you go to disabling fire immediately, or do you try to maneuver away from a boat that's running at 44 knots in a straight line? Because the geography of the Strait of Hormuz doesn't give you much room to run. Stay vigilant, stay informed. I'll see you in the next one.